Hi, I'm Michael Kilman,
I'm Matt Wellstrom.
and welcome to our brand new series, Resistance Reels. It's a companion show to Resistance Reads, where we talk about film and other media instead of books. Now, we're not replacing Resistance Reads. This is our brand new subscriber-only show.
But this one's free. This one episode.
Episode. So after this, all the other Resistance Reels will be behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. But for now, you can check it out and see if you like it. And for our very first episode, we're covering the first season of Andor.
You might have heard of it. It was pretty popular.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was a little blip in the night.
I think people might have noticed it.
But we're not doing the whole season because we would be here for like 6 hours.
Oh, there's so much to talk about in this show, you guys.
And we're probably still going to be here for a while anyway. Yeah. But we are going to focus on the prison sequence towards the end of the series surrounding Narkina 5.
Yeah, it's like a three episode.
It's a 3-episode arc.
Yeah.
And the way that Andor kind of works is it essentially has 4 arcs in the first season. Mm-hmm. The first being kind of like your jumping off point for
You're introduced to Cassian Andor murdering some guys who deserve it, like usual. I think every time we meet this guy, he's like very efficiently killing some like cops or some shit like that.
Yeah.
You know,
corpos.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And then the second arc is is like a heist arc, and it's his like first work for the resistance officially.
Yeah.
The rebellion.
Yeah. Right. Not the resistance. The rebellion.
The rebellion. Yeah.
We're the resistance. They're the rebellion.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're resisting the existing power structure to prevent totalitarianism, and they are rebelling against the already authoritarian system.
Sure, I was just going to say we're the resistance because it's in our name.
Yeah, that too. The third arc is the prison arc, and the final arc is kind of like everything comes full circle.
It's like the funeral for his mom.
Yes.
And, the uprising on his home planet that results from that. Yeah.
And you definitely, if you have not watched it, this is going to contain quite a few spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Cassian's mom dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all the other things.
And everything else.
So we're going to do a quick summary here, like we do with Resistance Reads, of the first season, and then we're going to dive into some social theory. I have I forgot to bring it with me, but I have a copy of the Foucault Reader, which I was kind of paging through. I hadn't really read it thoroughly since grad school. You probably have it up here on the shelf.
I must have it somewhere.
I also picked up a copy of On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century by Timothy Snyder. It's a useful little kind of pocket guide to key things, and I bookmarked some that were relevant of the 20 that were relevant to this particular series of episodes, which is really about the perfect authoritarian prison, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
way to look at it.
So, kind of an overview here. The story begins. We meet Cassian Andor, and he is on a planet called Morlana 1, and he is in a brothel, actually. And he's asking around for a Kunari girl, which is his sister. He's trying to find his sister. We find out pretty quickly that his planet was completely trashed by the Empire. They strip mined most of the planet. Yeah. You see in little flashbacks that essentially only children are left, and it's kind of like Lord of the Flies almost, but they actually look like they actually have a decent living.
I was going to say it's not quite Lord of the Flies because
but there's no parents.
Yeah.
All the adults have been killed off, and so these kids are fending for themselves. A ship kind of crash lands on there, and the kids go to investigate, probably looking for resources. You don't ever actually know what they're saying to each other because they're speaking in Kunari, and it just, like, even the subtitles just say speaking in Kunari.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of infer from what's going on, which I thought was a really interesting kind of choice that,
in Star Wars they tend to gloss over the fact that, like, how are people talking to each other this fluently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of throwing you into this kind of childhood of his. They go and try to explore this wreck. One of the soldiers kills one of the other kids. They carry the body of that kid away. Cassian goes onto the ship to explore. And then his future adopted mother finds him because she's a scavenger,
Mm-hmm.
and his future adopted father. And they the ships show up in orbit to kind of basically rain down hell on the planet and whatever. So she without like really consulting him, she sedates him and takes him off on the ship to try to keep him alive. And then we're kind of told later that the planet is bombarded.
Right.
So back to the Morlana 1 thing. He is still looking for his sister, and he happens to mention a Kunari girl. And these two kind of corpos, and of course, like the madame at the brothel. He's trying to find her, so they all hear the word Kunari. And she says, she was here, but several months ago, maybe not his sister, but a Kunari girl was here several months ago, and now is gone. And so he goes to leave, and he's just kind of headed back to his ship to head back to his home, because apparently he's been looking for his sister for a while. And two corporate cops, it's essentially like this sector of the galaxy is like controlled by corporations. It's not quite imperial control.
Yeah, it feels like the Empire is using corporations to outsource.
Yeah.
It's like private security that has the authority to kill people.
But these two dipshits who are in the brothel basically try to put the hurt on Cassian. And Cassian's like, "Oh yeah, I've got some money in my pocket, go look for it." He doesn't have any money. But he gets close enough, so he takes down one and he throws him against the wall, and then he grabs the gun and puts the gun on the other guy's head. Unfortunately, the first one's dead.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an accident. He didn't mean to kill him, but they were, fleecing him. And so he then kills the other guy. The other guy starts begging for his life or whatever, and he just kills him really quick.
Ooh.
Which is like, I remember watching that the first time. I was like, well, this is very un-Star Warsy. There's no mercy.
That's literally how we meet Cassian Andor in Rogue One.
That is true. That is true.
The first time we see him on screen, he kills someone in just like an extremely efficient and like, I don't know, it's like he's improvising. He's got just Jason Bourne improvisational.
He does,
And
Tony Gilroy, who wrote the show, was also the writer and director for the Bourne series.
Oh, the second and third one. You're right. Yeah.
Oh
my God, that's correct.
So that's why, in a lot of ways, Andor feels more like a spy thriller than it does Star Wars, because that's the kind of energy that Tony Gilroy is bringing to the piece.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like he goes back to Ferrix, which is kind of where his mother Maarva and his trusty little droid live.
Emo. It's like B2 emo.
B2 emo.
And
which
like,
feels like Adventure
emo.
Time, yeah. Well, yeah, he's like an old broken down droid who needs repairs and constantly glitches out and all this kind of stuff. He's a very endearing little guy.
Yeah, little sad guy.
Yeah. But so he goes back there, and you find out pretty quick that Cassian owes everybody money. That he very clearly had a relationship with this girl Bix, but then like not anymore, and her new boyfriend is very jealous of Cassian.
Yeah.
And there's these corporate, so the corporate police have this guy who's like second in charge named Cyril, who is kind of like got a hard on for being a hero. Like his whole thing.
Like he's the saddest character on the show.
He is,
like, by far.
It gets worse in the second season.
Bro.
Matt hasn't seen the second season.
I haven't seen the second season.
It's so... Anyway.
I have a wife, so I have to, if I want to watch anything new, I have to watch it with her.
You have to watch it with
Otherwise, she gets sad. I was trying to watch One Piece the other day, and she's like, "Oh, you're watching One Piece?" And I was like,
"That help me?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he gets kind of a bug up his ass about these two cops are murdered, but even his boss is like, "Look, we know what this is. This is another one of the situations where these jackasses were in a brothel. They weren't supposed to be there. They were drinking. They weren't supposed to be drinking. They had money that they weren't supposed to have. And they annoyed the wrong person and lost their lives for it. That's the end of it. We're going to drop it." But Cyril doesn't want to drop it.
And that's so funny because dude is literally right. That is exactly what happened.
I know. He guesses it to a T.
Yeah.
So he launches this whole investigation. Meanwhile, Cassian is trying to figure out how to get some money together to get off planet because he realizes he's probably cooked for a while, so he's gonna go lay low. He has off screen, so before this started, stolen an Imperial Starpath unit, what I guess is like a navigation system.
Yeah, I think it's what they. I think it's the thing that when
Star
you're
Destroyers.
engaging when you're engaging your hyperdrive, you need the Starpath unit to make sure you don't run into anything
Like
while you're traveling through hyperspace. Exactly.
Right. So he's trying to sell this. Bix has a buyer, and this is how we kind of get introduced to kind of like the guy who is at the head of the rebellion. His name's Luthen. We don't find out till much later. But he has been very interested in Cassian for a while. So they set up a meeting, and at the same time, they're tracking him down. The corporate police track him down, and Bix's new boyfriend betrays everyone and sells the information because he found out that because they put out a bulletin that they're looking for a Canary male, and Bix inadvertently told him, the new boyfriend, that Tim is his name with like multiple M's.
Yeah.
Tim. Little Monty Python in there, but I wonder if that was intentional.
You can never tell.
Can never tell with nerd culture.
Yeah.
So it all kind of comes to a head, and they're tracking him down. But Cassian is not someone to trifle with, and neither is Luthen. Both are ruthless, and they take down like the entire 12-guy security force while they escape. They kill a couple of them and flee. So they're away, and Luthen asks him to work for him, and he's like, I want to lay low. I don't really want to work for you. He's like, okay, but what are you going to do for money? And he's like, well, I'll figure something out. And he's like, what, you want for scraps? And he's like, why not work for me on this one job, and we're going to rob the entire quarterly payroll of an entire sector.
It's a great train robbery.
It's a great train robbery. And it is kind of a train robbery, isn't
absolutely
it? It's totally. It's a bank vault train robbery at the same all.
All train robberies are bank vault train robberies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you rob a train,
Yeah.
to get all the money that they're transporting from one bank to another. Or,
right.
From a bank to a payroll, I should say.
So they go to this planet Aldhani, and there's a lot of really interesting themes there with like, how do you know who to trust in a rebellion when a lot of these people are angry, they're self-serving.
Do trust the little socialist kid.
Yeah.
Don't trust the guy from the bear at all.
No.
Whether it's the bear or...
Skeen is so... I hate you. I mean, he's slimy from the beginning.
Absolutely.
But then there's Nemik, who's like a sweet little... social theorist who's writing a manifesto,
exactly,
right, about liberation and freedom and fascism and all this stuff. Of which we get some of the greatest lines in the whole show from.
Truly, I had to transcribe one of them because it was so good.
Yeah, but they, they're pretending to be sheep herders, and like the indigenous population, they use this essentially every 3 year, this really special, spectacular sky show that looks like millions of meteorites. I forget how they explained it was some sort of...
Yeah, it was cool though.
It was really cool, but it's like this beautiful show, so they use that to kind of make their escape. It goes fairly well considering there's 7 of them and they're dealing with an entire Imperial garrison.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of them die, but Andor survives, and a couple of the others. Andor, as they're kind of... So Nemik accidentally gets crushed by these big money... What the hell are they? They're like sleeves. They're like giant coin sleeves or something.
I think it's where they're keeping all the credits, and they're like kind of bundled up, but credits are like little, they're called latinum. I'm not sure if that's a real mineral or not, but it sounds like platinum,
Is they call it latinum, or are you thinking of Star Trek?
Oh, am I thinking of Star Trek?
I think you're thinking of Star Trek.
I'm thinking of Star Trek. Yeah, that's what Quark is always trying to get his hands on, is latinum.
Gold pressed latinum, specifically.
Anyway, no, they're credits though, and they're made out of metal.
They're made out of some kind of metal, but they're big and heavy, and
when you bundle them up together, they become like an unstoppable force.
Right. So they manage to steal 80 million's worth, but as they're fleeing in the ship, poor Nemik gets squished.
Cassian has to like gun it and
to escape, to survive. And it crushes
gravity.
him.
Yeah.
Right. So they take him to a doctor, and then while what the hell is Val? That's what her name is. Val, who's the head of this particular thing, this whole particular endeavor.
Yeah.
And she's a main character through the whole series. Pretty significant character.
She's got a pretty powerful relative.
And in the second season, she's very relevant. But anyway, so she's like sitting there with Nemik and the doctor, and they're doing, trying to save his life. Meanwhile, Andor's Cassian's outside with Skeen, and Skeen's like, let's take the money and run.
Yeah.
Like he's like betraying them. And before he can even finish, Cassian just shoots him.
Yeah, it's great.
Just kills him. And then Cassian like goes in and is like holding the gun up, and he's like, hey, I'm taking my cut. No more, but just leave me alone. I just want to go off into the universe. Fuck the Empire, fuck it all. I'm not taking any more than I was promised. I'm taking only the 200,000 that I was promised. I'm leaving everything else to you. Just, tell Luthen that I'm out, right? Which it doesn't work that way, of course.
No, of course not. I mean, just as an exercise, do you think if the job had gone perfectly, but Cassian had told Luthen in that initial meeting that he didn't want to work for the rebellion, he just wanted to do a heist, would he have?
No.
Yeah, no.
No way. Luthen doesn't let anybody.
You're in or you're out.
No. Luthen doesn't let anybody go.
Yeah. And we know that.
And we know that because later he gives this whole famous speech. Like,
it's so good.
There's probably two speeches you know about if you know Andor. Ooh. One is from Luthen and the other is from Nemik.
Yeah.
So,
Maarva's speech is pretty good too. Actually.
Maarva's speech is pretty good. Yeah. Cassian goes off and he tries to go back to Ferrix and get Maarva, his mom, and she's very elderly at this point, but she's decided she's a rebel to the point where she's like literally crawling through these old tunnels trying to see if the rebellion can, because the Empire has now put a whole force to try to, because they've recognized that something between Cassian and they don't know who Luthen is. They just call him Axis. They're trying to track him down because they're starting to realize that something is actually going on here, that maybe there is an organized rebellion. And so they've set up a present. They torture Bix, all this other kind of stuff. And
Poor Bix.
Yeah. Boy, man.
It's brutal, man.
Well, you haven't even seen the second season yet.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough, but the way they torture her
she's
is by making her listen to the screams of children who have like a special like vocal cord arrangement that makes it sound musical.
Yeah.
That's
how they torture people.
The gnarliest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. I actually think that's like I've got some thoughts on that for later, but I think it has to do with like the spectacle of torture and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. That's what it's about.
But anyway, but Cassian, gets out. No one comes with him. He goes by himself, and he goes to like basically what looks like Cabo or
I was gonna say he just like goes to Tahiti.
It's like
Tahiti.
It's space. Yeah, it's like a space resort.
Space Cancun.
Yeah. It's really, really cushy place, and of course you see him, and he's got like a beautiful naked woman in his bed who's telling him to go pick up drugs.
Yeah.
From the drugstore.
Yeah, she's like, get all these different types of drugs. We're out of our drugs.
Go get your drugs. So he's just like walking to the store, and there's
like some mild criminal activity happening. Like there's a chase, and like a shore trooper is what they're called, comes up and starts hassling him. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm going to the store." And he's like, "Why are you resisting?" He's like, "What are you talking about? What am I resisting?" You know? And then he ends up in jail.
Right.
Dude got away with one of the biggest heists.
And he gets in jail for basically jaywalking.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't even actually doing anything really bad. He was
not doing anything. He was literally just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So, and also the reason that they're so much more irritated is because of the Aldhani heist kind of blows everything up, and suddenly the Emperor Palpatine is like putting the squeeze on everybody.
Yeah, because I think you can imagine in this instance that like the Empire's like supremacy has probably not really been challenged in a meaningful way by like an unorganized group before. You know, like if they've ever faced anything, it's probably like a senator who is trying to like cause problems, or you know
remnants of the Jedi.
Right, other powers. Yeah,
Right.
you know.
Because, they're still hunting down Jedi at
They
this
are.
stage and stuff. Because this Andor is happening at the same time the show Rebels is happening.
Basically, yeah. And so, yeah, you've got, like, little groups, but, like, if they're doing anything, they're, like, yeah, maybe attacking a garrison, I guess. But, like, not stealing, like, a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And I think the Emperor probably also knows that what that money's going to go toward.
Right. Yeah, he's not stupid. Palpatine's quite the strategist.
Yeah,
really.
Kanan and Hera hadn't really made a splash like this at this point.
No, because this is BBY5, right?
Yeah.
So before Battle of Yavin, 5 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Which is when the show Rebels literally starts.
Yes, yeah. And you get Ezra recruited. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing, it's not for a couple more years that they really start to be a thorn in the side.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, not till season 3 of Rebels.
Right.
You have, like, do they get ships in a significant way where they can start doing...
They actually have they're starting to build a fleet.
A fleet, exactly,
right.
Yeah.
So he gets thrown in this prison, Narkina 5, and, and he gets in there pretty quickly, and you see that, in fact, this is like an Uber prison. The floors are electrified, and they're all barefoot, and the guards all wear rubber-soled shoes to protect them. Mm-hmm. So if there's any kind of uprising or anything, they just shock the living shit out of them.
Yeah.
Not only that, this is a working prison, so it's a labor camp, and they building what looks like parts for a spaceship, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess what they were building, it's probably the Death Star.
Oh.
So we know that a lot of the work to build the Death Star is done by those aliens that look like bug guys.
Yeah, what are they
they're
called?
A couple.
Geonosis.
The Geonosins.
Geonosins.
Yes. But that is because they were able to work in, like, in space, basically.
Right.
Like, you can have those guys working on ships, assembling them in space, but my suspicion is that they're probably building the pieces that the Geonosins would then, like, actually construct with.
Well, no, the Geonosins are dead by this point. If you remember Rebel timeline, that they commit mass genocide. That's where you first meet Saul Guerrera in
But that's
Rebels.
like BBY4.
Is it?
Yeah. So they haven't done that yet, and I think according to Tarkin, there's a book that came out. It was basically like 2 novels together, and one was Kanan meeting Hera, and it's like a fucking delightful read.
Oh,
and
let's check that out.
Yeah, it's a great adventure. But then also, like, the back half of that was a book about Tarkin and about his philosophy and kind of like how he rose to the ranks, but also the construction of the Death Star.
Okay.
And I think that's what Saw is getting at in the episode where they're on Geonosis,
mm-hmm.
And they find that, like, that egg, and they think that a genocide has happened. It's actually not a genocide. They took all the Geonosins and put them in space to build the Death Star.
Oh, really?
That's what happened to them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He knows more about Star Wars than
I mean, my wife is a mega fan, man. Like,
yeah.
I'm just along for the ride. I also fucking love it, obviously.
Yeah. And I'm like catching up. So I just finished Rebels a couple of months ago. But so anyway, so they're in this thing, and it's the way they do it in this prison is they have different floors, and each floor competes against each other floor, and the loser floor gets electrocuted, and the winner floor
they get shock treatment. I don't think they get all the way electrocuted.
Yeah, they get the floor turned on.
Yeah.
Right. So they get really painful electrocution, and then the winners get like tastes in their food because they have like a paste. And they're allowed to have as much of this food as they want, but it has no flavor unless you win.
Right.
So, and then each table in the room competes against each other table. So it's like a multi-tiered competition system where the losers get pain and the winners get flavor.
Yeah.
And obviously it's set up to kind of try to crack solidarity and create resentment. I think it doesn't work that effectively except for the managers.
I think it's a system that could work fairly well. I think the reason that it really works, like, if it works well at all, it's down to the managers. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, so Andy Serkis plays the manager of the floor that Cassian's on, and I think what you need to do for the system to work is you have to find the most charismatic person on every floor, make them the manager of that floor, and get them to buy into the system with maybe a light incentive or just ego stroking to like basically get them to corral all the other people. You need like the tiers of oppression,
and as the manager, you don't have to do all the hard work. You just have to basically get the people to do the hard work.
Yeah.
So it's less physically brutal. That might be just enough.
I think you're right.
Incentive.
Actually, that is.
So he doesn't have to be doing the hard labor. He doesn't risk getting shocked.
Right.
So there is a series of incentives. And then the other thing with this is like in their little cubicles things that are totally open, they can see everything. At night, they just turn the floor on. They don't have cages. They don't have bars.
Yeah.
They just turn the floor on, and very quickly a person commits suicide by just like diving on the floor.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to be here anymore. But Cassian's sentenced for 6 years, and there's a little clock that tells you how much time you have left.
Yeah, in your bunk, it's a shift counter.
Yeah. So how many shifts you have left, and Cassian, of course, the thing, and I actually like thought about this, like you can't actually see what the numbers say. They're in Star Wars language, right?
Right.
But that also serves as kind of like this interesting function of like obscurity for the viewer as well. Oh,
absolutely, yeah.
So you're seeing this thing counting down, and the floor boss, what was his name? The floor boss.
Yeah.
What's the character's actual name?
You shouldn't call him Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. Well, so
Andy Serkis did like very much didn't do anything wrong. He created a new type of acting.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that, but
dude, he was the first like actual mocap actor. He was the first one to approach it from like an acting perspective instead of just like a modeling, like body language perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so really quickly though too, so they kind of flash forward. Okay, it's been a month. He's been at this a month now. He's got his job. Now they're starting to actually win some of the shifts. So they get some food or whatever. But Cassian is also doing that because it's clear he's organized with some of the other inmates to start trying to formulate a plan. And one of the things I really love about Cassian is no matter where he goes, he's not really intimidated by the guards or the violence. He kind of strolls around, looking around, observing, listening to everything going on. He is kind of a savant in a way.
I think you're right. It's a really interesting character. Like Cassian Andor is a very interesting character because when he's put in a situation, he's immediately in survival mode. I think he's always in survival mode.
Probably because he grew up the way he grew up, like having to survive, right? And he's also a genius. He speaks multiple languages. He's very, I mean, he would be like one hell of like... Kino. Okay, his name is Kino. So, anyway, so Kino... So they find out very quickly that something else is up or something else is going on because they're all of when they got in there because of Aldhani, all their sentences were doubled. Everyone's sentences just off the bat were doubled. And, they're trying to figure out, they're asking Cassian, who never shared any information
with
anybody ever. He's everything's close to the vest.
Yeah.
So he says he doesn't know anything about anything that's happening. Of course he knows. He literally did the Aldhani job.
Yeah, exactly.
So they get out, or they find out very quickly that they're doing this sign language because you can see from one tube to another they're doing this sign language, and the inmates are communicating all across the prison using this really cool sign language that they made up.
Yeah, it's like kind of big, It's like normally when people speak in sign language, they're kind of like
depends on the sign language.
Very good point. I'm thinking of ASL obviously, but yeah, they have to communicate across massive expanses.
Yeah, it's like 100,
like
200
multiple
yards.
Football fields. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
It's like 200 yards they can see, and they do it. Kino is like, it takes like a week for them to get like a sentence over here.
Yeah, you're overreacting.
Yeah, but something's wrong, and what happened is the Empire made a mistake and when they released someone, they put him in the same prison on accident, and it caused a huge thing.
Yeah.
And they had to electrocute an entire floor.
They were
500 men.
releasing a prisoner. Air quotes, massive air quotes, to releasing. They released him from floor 5 down to floor 2 instead of sending him to another prison. So the prisoners all find out that when you are released, you are actually just moved, and it caused a riot, and they had to quell the riot by electrocuting a whole floor full of people, which is hundreds
500,
of people.
500 people. There's 6,000 people in the prison total.
Yeah.
So they killed them all, and word finally gets out because one of this very old man at Cassian's table he works with has a stroke, and the medic comes in, and the medic confesses they killed an entire floor.
Yeah.
So as soon as they find out, Cassian's been bugging Kino to try to get details about security.
How many guards are
there? He's been bugging him for this whole episode, and finally the last thing they say at the end of that episode, he's like, how many guards are there, Kino?
No more than 12.
No more than 12 on the floor at any one time. And that's how the episode ends. And then the next episode is the prison break, where they very cleverly wet the floor. Cassian breaks the bathroom, and so all the water goes out and it shorts out the floor. They storm up, they take control, they release everybody, and they have to swim for it.
It's
in the middle of the water.
It's such an exciting episode of television because you see step by step how they're breaking out of the prison and how ineffective the guards are actually in this system.
Yeah.
The guards are not the thing that makes the prison work. They're there for show. They're probably more of a psychological tool than anything else because there's 12 guards on one floor, but there's 500 guys on a floor. It's no contest. Once you get the guns away from them, there's this excellent scene where Cassian and his friends are all escaping, and they're like communicating down to each little room, and they're all running together up to the top of the prison, because it's basically like an island, and they'll have to jump and swim away. But you see all of these guards huddled together, just holding on to their little blaster rifles.
Yeah, in a corner.
In behind a door, and there's a window in the door. You can see all the prisoners escaping through it, and it's just if you guys ever watched the show, the cinematography is amazing, the music's amazing, the directing, the acting, it's so peak.
So then the season kind of rounds out. They go back to Ferrix. Cassian frees Bix, and he finds out that his mother is dead.
But she made this dope recording of her telling the Empire to go fuck itself.
Yep.
That plays in giant hologram styles in the town square, where all these marching bands have come together to memorialize her because she was the president of
the daughter
organization.
The Daughters of Ferrix, which were anti-imperial. So I mean the Ferrix stuff is so cool because whenever the Empire is coming up, they do this metal pounding thing, and the whole town
they've got this bell
they have the bell, but they do the they bang against the whole town to warn that the Imperials are coming. God, my favorite thing is when Maarva is sitting there, and I think it's the third episode, and they've got her under guard with the two guys, and she says, "Really gets to you, doesn't it?" And she's talking all calmly, and they're like, "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" And she's like, "The thing you have to worry about is when it stops." And literally right then the thing stops, and all the troopers start panicking. It was just such a great thing of how, I mean, I think the whole lesson of the whole Ferrix thing is just how powerful organized community is against oppression.
Absolutely.
Right? They just can't even. So they everything gets kind of blown up, and they rescue Vix, and Cassian goes to Luthen, who's had a hit out on him to get him killed.
The whole back half of the season, Cassian's being followed around by these two girls who are trying to kill his ass. On Luthen's behalf.
And they're from the Aldhani group, Cinta and Val. And they are there to they're there to take him out because he knows who Luthen is. He's seen his face, and he's afraid that Cassian's going to reveal him. So Cassian finally confronts Luthen and says, "Take me in, make me part of the rebellion, or kill me." And Luthen, who says a number of times that I don't like to dispose of useful tools, takes Cassian in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the thing ends. I mean, we're glossing over a lot of really cool stuff. But...
Oh yeah, we left out the whole Mon Mothma thing too.
Yeah, Senator Mon Mothma, who is, trying to fund the rebellion. Saul Guerrera, his stuff is really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a whole subplot where Luthen is basically like going to sacrifice one of his rebel leaders and like 30 of his guys to do. What is the aim of that? It's basically so that
to protect
the Empire doesn't know that he has a mole in ISB.
Yeah, and ISB is like the equivalent to the FBI, I would say. So.
And there's a scene, hold on, I'm going to read this bit. It's Luthen's speech when he's talking to his mole about... Lonnie the mole, about like Lonnie's been doing it for 6 years and he...
Well, they groomed him, so they raise Lonnie up through the ranks of the ISB until he's a section leader.
Yeah.
And so he's like one of the most powerful people in the ISB.
Yeah, he's going head to head with Dedra, who is this lady who's also obsessed with finding Cassian Andor.
Yep. And well, access more, right? She's looking for Luthen.
She wants to find Cassian because she knows he's connected to Luthen.
Right.
Yeah. And so that sad sack corpo fuck who was Cyril, who is trying to find Cassian, like finds out that she is also looking for Cassian and decides that he's in love with her, I guess. He's
totally in love with her.
It's so funny.
That's second season stuff.
He's such a little fuckboy.
But no, leading up to this really amazing one of the coolest speeches like ever written about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Lonnie comes down and tries to, tip off Luthen and give him a whole series of intel about what's going on to try to basically sweeten the pot so he can because Lonnie doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because he just had a child and he's a dad and he's afraid. He's terrified. So he asks, he's like, Luthen's like, we thank you for your sacrifice, Lonnie. He's like, my sacrifice?
Yeah.
What do you sacrifice?
Yeah.
And this is what Luthen says.
Yeah. He says, calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So, what do I sacrifice? Everything! You'll stay with me, Lonnie. I need all the heroes I can get.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It is like, and the way he delivers it.
I mean, it's Stellan fucking Skarsgård.
Yeah.
So when he says those lines, he sounds like he's in Henry V.
Yeah.
It's just like,
God.
Fuck.
Yeah. Luthen, I think he's one of the best characters television has ever produced.
I would not argue that. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like him, Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope is pretty good.
like
Jean-Luc Picard.
Jean-Luc Picard and Robert Petrie. There you go. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. So, just thinking about all this stuff from like a social theory standpoint, I kind of, like I said, I was rereading some Foucault and thinking about like how prisons function and, rereading sections out of Discipline and Power and how societies must organize discipline, or rather states must organize systems of discipline in order to make sure they maintain that power. And in Foucault's Panopticon section, or in the Panopticon part, he talks about how, and I've said this before, every state has the same problem. They have to express their power at the lowest possible cost.
Yeah.
And this is also why the prison is not heavily staffed, because prisons are very expensive to run.
Extremely expensive.
And so prisons often use all kinds of techniques of social coercion. They don't prevent things like rival gangs in prisons for a reason. They encourage rivalries. They encourage prisoner on prisoner violence in a lot of ways, or at least they look the other way, in part because that, tamps down on possible rebellion and prison breaks and all kinds of things.
If the prisoners have rivalries that set them against each other in a violent way, they're basically subcontracting the prison's own discipline system for them.
Right. Right. So
and thinking it's their own idea.
Yeah. Getting people to fight each other or to police each other is the best way to maintain power. You've got people chasing around each other, and you see this in modern politics all the time. How do those in power stay in power? They create culture wars and figments of our imagination. They encourage all kinds of disharmony.
It's what I call doing a yojimbo. Where
Yeah.
you see one group over here, and they both want to kill you. Well, just set them against each other, and they'll take each other out, and then you're fine.
Yep. There's also like a couple of things. So like when you're talking about when you're talking about Foucault, he starts out in Discipline to Punish with this whole the spectacle of torture, that the sovereign, before you get to democratic systems and before you get to systems of capitalism, the sovereign would always have these massive spectacles around executions. It wouldn't be so frequent that people were desensitized, because you want to make sure that people are terrified.
But you also want to do it enough that people have it in the back of their mind and also see it as a form of entertainment.
Right. And we saw this a lot we see this very clearly in particular. You see it in a couple of ways, because the Empire in Star Wars kind of exercises both the disciplinary practices of the prison system that come with capitalism and democracy, and they exercise kind of the spectacle of terror by, doing all kinds of horrible things. Like, prisoner commits suicide, and when they jump onto the election floor, so they stay there all night.
Yeah.
They let them sit and cook all night on the floor. They don't come and remove the prisoner right away. They want to remind you of who's in control here. So
Absolutely.
It's psychological torture. Or Bix with the screams.
Yeah.
Right?
Or that's a great example. Or like just the minor psychological terror of like being in a vacation spot and all of a sudden people get disappeared.
Yep. Yep.
Like you're on vacation, but
bagging.
in the back of your mind, you're like, that guy Cassian that I was having drinks with last night, his girlfriend said he just disappeared.
Yeah.
He went out to get some groceries and didn't come back. You know?
Yeah. And what that was like a free speech thing. They said he was like inciting anti-imperial speech, and literally he was just going to the grocery store. But the people who ran by him, were probably protesters or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You never really find out.
No, you're like I wasn't sure if it was like a robbery or if they were protesting or like you don't really know. You don't know what it is.
And then there's the security droids.
Yes. Which are terrifying.
Which are absolutely terrifying, and like literally he says the shore trooper or whatever says to the droid, hang on to him for a minute, and the droid goes, hang, and he grabs Cassian by the throat and is like choking him out.
The last thing you hear in that scene is Cassian being like, tell him you meant stop, not hang.
Yeah. So there's that, and then the other thing that they do with Bix too is right before they're about to torture her, they bring in Parvo, and Parvo is kind of the guy who runs the radio station that Bix uses the transmitter to contact Luthen. So they leave him on the floor on purpose, intentionally. And Dedra Miro actually says, he's like, "Oh, do you want us to remove before we bring in the girl?" And she says, "No, I want her to see him and pretend like we accidentally did it." Yeah. So they leave him, and he's like on the floor, like quivering, because he's been so thoroughly tortured by this screaming noise that they use. They use the sound of these alien children that the Empire committed genocide on them, and their death. They recorded their death throes, and then manipulated them and altered them as a torture device, right? So there's like spectacle on top of spectacle on top of spectacle.
Absolutely.
A lot of cases, and then on top of that, Parvo, they hang him in the town square as well. So so there again, there's a lot of this kind of spectacle. So that's a marker of a totalitarian state, is that they have kind of performative cruelty all over the place. And that doesn't even have to be in death. Performative cruelty can be destroying people's lives as well. Yeah. Even if they're physically unharmed and they're not imprisoned, by destroying their reputation and their life, or mocking or making them the center of public ridicule. I mean, that's the whole point, is to create this kind of spectacle of your power, to make sure constantly people understand that you're in charge, and you want to chill speech, you want to chill dissent as much as possible. Which, by the way, on Tyranny, the very first one, which I didn't mark in this because it wasn't as relevant, but it's the very first one is do not obey in advance. Right. So that's the very first lesson that we should be taking away from how to prevent authoritarian.
Well, that's Cassian's his whole attitude towards everything, right?
It is.
He does not obey in advance. He doesn't really obey much at all.
Not to anybody.
But like as a rule, like I would say his core defining characteristic, despite the fact that, I mean, setting aside sexy as fuck, obviously, like Diego Luthen. Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. Yeah. It's like, if there's ever a guy on TV who's looking for a sister, he's probably a fucking smoke show. I'm thinking about Fox Mulder also.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But no, he doesn't, like, he's got his own idea about what he wants to do, and you're gonna have to, like, persuade the fuck out of him to get him to do anything you want him to do.
Yeah. There's also talking about this kind of disciplinary power in the prison functions in a number of different ways, specifically in this instance, but just like in general. So if you look at, the 13th Amendment, what you see is that there's still an exception carved out from slavery. And this is like, if you have not read Michelle Alexander's book, Jim Crow.
The New Jim Crow.
Which is about mass incarceration in the United States. She covers the history of this. It is one of those books that I think is necessary to read. You can also still watch the documentary 13th on YouTube for free.
Yeah, my wife shows that in one of her classes.
I show it in some of mine too.
She says it's a bummer, but
it is.
It's also, she shows it every year.
Yeah.
She watches it like 3 times a year.
I actually had a student complain to the dean that I showed that.
Dean, I would like to object to learning. So sad thing. She said
it was too overwhelming for the class, and I'm like, I'm sorry. This is a class where you're supposed to be challenging your assumptions about society and culture. Yeah. But I did actually have to like deal with that, and they're like, well, could you just like give them a heads up? And I was like, it's in the syllabus. And I'm like, fine by us. Just keep it in the syllabus.
There you go.
They know in advance they're watching this film.
Well, they don't, because no student ever reads a syllabus, but
they do not.
But if they did, they would have a heads up.
So you have like this prison industrial complex that also provides labor and work for the Empire in this case. And this kind of also moves into another social theory book, Debt: The Last 5,000 Years by David Graeber, where he talks about the Military-Coinage-Slavery complex.
Yeah. Well, you were talking earlier about how expensive it is to run a prison.
Yes.
One of the best ways you can offset the costs of that is to outsource labor through the prison.
Right. Right. Well, you can build your military-industrial complex while you're bolstering your prison-industrial complex.
Absolutely.
Tie them together. And so Graeber talks about this in history, that the rise of coinage leads to the rise, because militaries have to be paid in coin because soldiers know that they're not, like, they might die soon.
Oh, you got to be paying them every week.
You got to be paying them all the time so they can send that money back to their family at least, right? So you get the military that's getting paid. They need to be paid in coins. Coins is based on precious metals, so you need slaves. So you make slaves with the military, which is, prisoners of war, and then they go into the mines, and so round and round and round this goes.
Yeah.
And we see this in very much in Andor.
Oh, absolutely.
Because especially if they're building the Death Star. I guess I just assumed they were building parts for Star Destroyers. Or something similar.
They could be. Obviously that's a possibility. I just think timeline-wise.
Well,
it also really ties into so one of the things that's discussed in the book Tarkin is the Tarkin Doctrine, which is quashing resistance through overwhelming force.
Right.
That's the whole philosophy of the Death Star itself.
Yeah.
And it kind of acts as the top end of this spectrum of terror that the Empire is using to keep this whole galaxy in line, right?
Yeah.
And they have to outsource parts of it, obviously, to corpos on the rim, because if you've ever read any Star Wars books, a lot of it is set on the outer rim because that's where things are a little bit more lawless. That's where the Empire has maybe a slightly more tenuous hold, so you can have
the huts
and stuff like that. Yeah, you have other colorful characters who are getting up to either crimes or
warlords,
conspiracies
gangsters,
or whatever.
Corpos.
Exactly. Because as we all know, the farther away you get from a disciplinary force or total power, the more freedom you have, but also the more tenuous rules are.
Well, you have a frontier society.
Yeah.
Right.
So Tarkin's whole thing is if we have a Death Star, we will be able to intimidate people like the Hutts, the corporate powers into more willingly obeying our rules, because if they know that there's a giant spaceship with a world-destroying laser on it that can use hyperdrives, that can just show up whenever, they'll just fall into line.
Yeah. Well, there's the spectacle again, right?
Spectacle, 100%.
Yeah.
What's more spectacular than watching a planet blow up?
Yeah, than Alderaan blowing up right at the beginning of A New Hope.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, so they have that whole military-industrial complex mixed with the prison-industrial complex. And then, again, the workers are competing against each other to prevent solidarity. They have these kind of incentives programs. They see when their time is ticking down, so they have less incentive to rebel. They're giving them all these kind of psychological tools to keep them docile. That's the whole idea, and preserve power. And the other thing a prison is, too, is what we call a total institution in sociology.
Okay, I like that.
Total institutions was... largely credited to Erwin Goffman. I forget what the name of the book was. It's in the 1970s, he's writing it. But a total institution is basically a scenario where your civil liberties are extremely limited, and you are put into a place of constant order, where everything is scheduled, everything is controlled day by day. And you can actually, you get institutionalized to the point where you get so adaptive to the culture and to the routine that you can't really function when you're removed from it very effectively.
Like in fucking Shawshank, man.
Exactly. I was about to bring up Shawshank, right?
What's that poor guy's name?
Brooks.
Brooks was here.
Yeah, Brooks was here.
Yeah.
And, Red almost commits suicide too. So,
yeah.
Right? So, because they get outside of this system that they've been relying on, that they can no longer, because, and they say this in Shawshank, Red is like, I can't even take a piss without someone telling me to do it anymore.
Right.
Because his life was so regimented for so long
Mhm.
that you actually become dependent on that perfect schedule, on that regiment, on the kind of terror. And so day in and day out. And you see this, and on Narkina 5, you see that they have a 12-hour shift. They have to sit in the tubes between that shift. They have, a very specific schedule for when they're doing various things. And there's no deviation from that because they are, quote, on program, which is anytime they say on program, they have their hands over their head and they can't move. If they move,
at one point, Cassian and Kino are like discussing the fact that they are going to do a prison break, and both of them, like at the beginning of the conversation, there's a chance that they might be seen. So Kino has to say on program, so Cassian gets in line, and then at the end of it, Kino's so shook up that there's a guard coming again, and Cassian has to say program, so he gets like Kino gets in line, so they don't get in trouble before they break out of prison.
Right.
It just works so well though, like having that little like command that is reinforced by the electric floor, like you're gonna like Cassian adapted to it within a week, you know.
Well, Cassian's
so that it was reflective when Kino said it. He would get on program.
I think Cassian's also very adaptable and knows.
You're right. He is a hyper survivor. So.
Yeah, he's a hyper survivor. He can fit in anywhere, figure it out. So
it was Asylums, by the way.
Asylums. That's what it is. Yeah. Asylums. Yeah, it's because psychiatric facilities and asylums are also total institutions. Yeah. Schools can be total institutions. Boarding schools
actually feels very
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I felt as a teenager like my high school was a total institution, but then I remember watching the Dead Poets Society and realizing that there are even more strict versions of that thing that I was experiencing.
Public school is not that bad.
It feels like it when you're.
It does, but it's still moderate after those total institutions.
Yeah.
We have routine. You only have so long to kind of slack. If you don't, you get punished. All this other kind of stuff.
Those like passing periods feeling like,
dude,
like an hour, but they were 10 minutes. You know.
You know how far the King Center is from like
science,
science building.
Yeah,
and it's probably 200 or 300 yards.
Yeah.
Right. So my high school, Douglas County High School, had a north building and a south building. Yeah. And we had 9 minutes to get that distance and be on time. If you had a class, and I had one, I think it was my junior year, I had alternating. I had to like run every time back and forth to be on time. Yeah. And the teachers were never on time either.
Of course not, dude, because they're old.
Right.
You know?
So,
like if you had a skateboard, you'd be there way before.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's see. Spectrum of Terror. Actually, I think I covered most of my actual notes here.
Awesome.
But the On Tyranny book. Okay, what did I bookmark here? Stand out. That's the 8th instruction or suggestion on Tyranny. And it says, someone has to. It's easy to follow along. It can feel strange to do or say something different, but without that unease, there is no freedom. Remember Rosa Parks. The moment you set an example, the spell of the status quo is broken and others will follow. And that is Cassian.
Absolutely.
Everywhere Cassian goes, he breaks the status quo.
And it's so interesting, too, because at the beginning of the show, we're first being introduced, like not technically first in like the chronology of the Earth. Obviously, Rogue One came first. But like when we're being introduced to him for the first time in the show, the Empire and Luthen are both a little bit aware of Cassian already. Because he can't just like go with the flow. He's doing like minor crimes, He's like getting into situations and scrapes and getting out of them to the point where, like Luthen's like, this guy might be an asset.
Yeah.
I might be able to use him in a way to further the rebellion's cause, their goals. Also, guys, I don't know. I clocked at this time, the leaders of the rebellion are often, like, especially in secret, known like by code names such as Axis or Fulcrum. Do we think that within the rebellion, they're called Fulcrum, and that the Empire is just referring to Luthen as Axis because they also see him as like being a point around which things are revolving, and that's their terminology for it? Or is that a code name that he goes by? I don't remember.
No, it is that. So Dedra is the one who coins Axis.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's
that's
Dedra.
interesting.
Yeah.
So he might just be one of the Fulcrum.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So,
Ahsoka, the other best live action Star Wars show that exists,
it's really good. Yeah.
Is also goes by Fulcrum when she is founding the rebellion with Jimmy Smits.
Yeah. The other one is believe in truth. To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then no one can critique power because there is no basis upon which to do so.
What's an example of this?
If nothing is true, then all is spectacle. The biggest wallet pays for the most blinding lights. And this is just talking about...
this was written in 2016, is that what I'm meant to be?
2017.
Oh, wow.
This is 2017.
Okay.
This is
I was joking. I thought it was older than that.
No. This is written in response to Trump.
Okay.
There's constant references to the Trump campaign and some of the early parts of the of the administration.
That makes sense.
But he's talking about how where's it, this section? Once truth has become oracular rather than factual, evidence was irrelevant. At the end of the war, a worker told Klemper, who's a researcher, that understanding is useless. You have to have faith. I believe in the Führer. And he's talking about Nazi Germany. And there was this one passage where
Truth is oracular. That's great, man. If truth just comes down on high, from on high, from an oracle,
right?
From a speaker of the words that you're supposed to believe, then you can't have objective reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't have objective reality, then you can continue to control like what's going on in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
Like they keep telling them this is how they keep the managers going.
Well, and that's what Kino is trying to do at first. He's trying to disrupt them from understanding what their situation is by saying it takes a week for a message to get here from down on the lower levels.
Right.
How can you be reacting this way? What sense does it make? You don't know, but they do know because they've been telling each other through a system of communication that is, albeit slow, but it is their truth, like their observed reality.
Yeah. Yeah, so the systematic use of names such as Lion Ted and Crooked Hillary displays certain character traits that might more appropriately have been affixed to the president himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yet through blunt repetition over Twitter, our president managed to transform the transformation of individuals into stereotypes that people spoke aloud. At rallies, the repeated chants of build that wall and lock her up did not describe anything other than did not describe anything that the president had specific plans to do, but the very grandiosity established a connection between him and his audience. So it's more spectacle again.
Oh God! And that's why he kept on doing those.
So he still does.
Especially
Democrats is the one right now.
Oh no, I meant that's why he was always doing the campaign style rallies, even when he was president. Because he had to keep doing the spectacle of having a big rally. Even in 2017 or 2019 when there's no campaigns, no elections happening, he was still holding rallies because that's where he got his energy from and that's where his base got its energy from. The spectacle of him just coming out there
that's why he still does
a bunch
rallies.
Of bullshit. Yeah.
That's why he still does rallies because that gets his base fired up, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was also this other, I can't find exactly where it was, but he talked about how this one researcher went and found this German Nazi soldier. This guy was unidentified. He wasn't just a German soldier because understand that in the German military in the Second World War, there were just regular Germans and there were Nazis, right?
Yeah,
They weren't always necessarily the same thing.
If I was conscripted right now, which would be ridiculous because I'm 43 and
Yeah, we're too old to be conscripted.
Yeah, I mean I'm in okay shape for a 43-year-old, but I'm not in soldier shape. You know, I'm not a 20-year-old.
Right.
In peak condition. But if I were, I would be there against my will and only doing it because I didn't want to go to prison. And I'm very confident there are a lot of German soldiers in the same situation.
Well, and if you're in a situation like Nazi Germany and you say, no, you may be going to a concentration camp.
Oh, hell yeah.
You'll be a political prisoner.
Right,
So you're death camp or serve, right?
Yeah.
And, so a lot of those people just didn't really know everything that was going on. They were just doing their duty, essentially.
Yeah,
right? Well, it was not an excuse for the horrors, but...
Well, but I do think you have to, like... If a soldier is serving because they were conscripted and they were doing what they were told, but they weren't like doing war crimes.
No, they're just fighting in battle.
They're just fighting in battle.
That's
Then
different.
that's literally, that's just what, they were doing what they're told, but it's not the like, I was obeying orders.
Yeah.
Right.
It's different than the people administering concentration camps.
Exactly.
But there is this one passage, and I can't find exactly where it was. I thought I had it marked. But he's talking to this former Nazi soldier. He was one of like the people who I think like was involved with the death camps, if I remember. I have to find the passage to verify. But the point is that 17 years after all of this, after everything had happened, after the war tribunals...
So like well into the late 50s.
Well into the late 50s, he interviewed them, and I still believe in the Fuhrer.
Jesus.
Like, so one thing was here is like, once it takes hold, these people are kind of stuck with that mentality for life, which makes me
unless they're snapped out of it, because that also has been known to happen.
Some people do snap out of it, but
like I'm thinking about people who like have left QAnon and stuff like that.
Yes, right.
Because
not everybody leaves a cult.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Right, and these are cults of personality or political cults. Authoritarian systems are cult structures.
Yeah.
And you think the best example of a cultist is Cyril.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a true diehard believer.
I feel like
even though the
and
Empire
Dedra...
keeps kicking him in the crotch for all the stuff he does, he keeps getting threatened and everything.
Actually, Cyril and Dedra are a great like double act as far as that's concerned, because she is constantly being positively reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing an excellent job at being a fascist.
Right.
And like the
she's an excellent fascist.
Yeah, the head of ISB is like rewarding her for that. At one point she's challenged by this sycophant, and she just owns him, and immediately within that meeting in front of everybody, like the head of ISB compliments her and says great job, and like you should shut the fuck up, and like here's your new mission that you have to do, and she's like excellent.
Yeah.
But Cyril wants to be in that situation. He wants to be that guy.
Yeah.
And he's got like the general good looks of like a protagonist, like an Aryan protagonist, but he's also got like a little bit of softness to his face and features and stuff like that. And it's like everybody can tell he's a soft boy too.
Yeah.
His mom, oh my god, the best / worst character in the show. Yeah.
She gets worse in the second
Oh
season.
my god.
There's this season when they're like spying on him or whatever.
He's got this archetypally shrewish, like, I want to say like 1950s Jewish coded mom who just
it totally is like, totally a Jewish coded mom.
It's so funny, you guys. Yeah.
It's like
he's a fascist with a Yiddish mom, and she's just constantly nagging him.
Why are you such a failure, Cyril?
Or when he's going out on a job interview and he gets a promotion, she's like, I knew they'd see your potential. Like, oh, it's rough, man. But yeah, he wants to be in ISB, but like fundamentally doesn't have the skills to do it, doesn't have the self-confidence to pull anything off, like in the way that Dedra does, because she's like, you can tell when she focuses on something, she's like a fucking laser, you know? And when he focuses on something, he's going to trip over the ottoman, you know?
There's also, the 18th piece of advice here, be calm when the unthinkable arrives. Oof. Modern tyranny is terror management. When the terrorist attack comes, remember that authoritarians exploit such events in order to consolidate power. I mean, this is literally like the prequel trilogy. The sudden disaster that requires the end of checks and balances, the dissolution of opposition parties, the suspension of freedom of expression, the right to a fair trial, and so on is the oldest trick in the Hitlerian book. Do not fall for it.
Hell yeah.
So it really, and you just think about that. And so you gave that speech for Luthen, and I was going to bring up the speech with this. Because Luthen actually turns the tables and with Aldhani causes the Emperor to overreach and panic.
Yeah.
And he clamps down, which is part of Luthen's whole plan
Absolutely.
to make more oppression so that people will see exactly how bad they are.
Or maybe not make more oppression, but make the oppression really visible.
Really visibility, yeah. Because he says at one point, he says, we need that visibility. We need people to suffer because they've been strangling us so quietly and slowly that we've forgotten what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that also, too, in the relationship with Mon Mothma and her husband and his like party land and all that other stuff.
Fuckboy husband.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah. He's
got like a little ponytail and everything. It's like, like a little yeah, he sucks so much.
Yes. But and then also, like, why does Cassian always succeed in his endeavors? It's because, again,
he's calm.
He's calm. When he's entering Narkina 5, they shock the shit out of him, and you think he should be scared. But he's, like, lazily strolling along to the point where the guards are, like, screaming at him. Like, get moving! What are you so slow for? But he's taking his time. He's observing everything. You see his face. The guards are all talking about whatever's going on. This level is having this issue, and that level... And he's watching.
Clocking all of it.
Everything. You can see the little gears turning. He uses...
He's in that prison for a fucking week and stages a breakout.
Right.
And it's successful.
Right. And so this is a little bit of a thing because when Trump won the second election, I kind of posted this advice on social media only to have everyone freak out at me.
Whoa, what was it?
My advice was, instead of panicking, instead of freaking out and getting hyper emotional, let's take stock of everything we have. Yeah. Let's figure out strategies. Let's not get, so devolved in our emotions that we're basically, we can't work or we time to grieve is nonsense at this point. We need to take action.
Oh,
and
man.
Boy,
nobody was in the mood for that.
No one was in the mood for that.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of people block me and yell at me online. And I was like, all right, I guess people don't want to hear that. But it's true. I mean, literally, this guy got to it, like, saying that, like, years before I did. And I didn't realize it.
Well, no, but I think you were right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people were in the mood to hear that.
Well, what's really
funny...
that's
the thing about social media is it's just a realm of moods.
Yes.
It's personified.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. And it's everybody just sharing their hot takes on everything.
Absolutely.
All the time.
And so if you want to find truth, don't go to social media, go to a library,
That's like the last thing. He's like, stay off the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry if we have like fans of the show who have been like trying to engage with me online. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm not online at all.
But you're doing the Patreon.
I have accounts, and I almost never engage with anything on them. I will be available to talk. You can talk to me on Patreon. Absolutely, yes. I will be there. I'm going to be in charge of that. I'll be talking to people there.
You can certainly engage with me on various social media.
Yeah, he's on all the social media sites, and I'm on none of them. I have an Instagram account so my wife can send me things, and then we just it's great. It's like a weekly digest. We just sit down on like Sundays and I just watch everything that she sent me throughout the week over breakfast.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's why I am sane.
And then the last one is be as courageous as you can. If none of us are prepared to die for our freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny.
Hell yeah.
And that is what what's the
I think it's the source of Cassian's calm too. He's like, I'm probably gonna die anyway. Why should I be afraid of these guys telling me to why should I listen to them tell me to go faster?
Yeah.
I'm in a fucking prison anyway.
And then the manager guy on the floor, Kino. And Kino his advice to everybody right before they're about to break out is like, pretend as if you are already dead and fight until the end, right?
Yes.
And a lot of those prisoners don't make it. And like at the end of the whole outbreak in the final scene, you see Cassian running through a basically a landscape with one other guy.
Dude, yes.
That's
Scottish guy in space. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could tell by his brogue he was from Edinburgh. I looked it up and I was right.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, we have to be prepared to make sacrifices if we're talking about true tyranny.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. No one needs to be like
yeah, we don't have to be hyperbolic about it. But guys, it's creeping.
Yeah.
You know,
it does
the
creep.
fucking I was gonna call them the ISB, but it's no, it's ICE. It's another acronym that starts with I.
Yeah.
ICE is out there black bagging people and sending them to fucking you know,
well, if you
wherever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, all the various concentration camps.
That's what I'm
and
saying. They're
literally
sending you wherever.
They're literally concentration camps because concentration camps are designed as camps where people are stored without their civil rights and without due process.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if they're death camps or not. Death camps is like the next horrific stage of a concentration camp.
Yeah, we came up with concentration camps ourselves in this country.
That's what reservations were.
That's what reservations were. And the Nazis saw that and were like, that's a fucking great idea. I think the British were also doing
the Boer camps.
Of course.
So Hitler literally in his own words says, like, you can actually read this. He says that the American reservation system and the Boer camps were his chief inspiration for the concentration camps for the Jews. His critique is that they just simply didn't go far enough, and they
that's why he did the gas chambers and the and the cremation, the ovens and all that shit. He took it to the next logical conclusion, but concentration camp, you're just concentrating people in an area without due process of law. Exactly.
Final thoughts.
Andor was really good. I'm sorry if some of the topics we discussed were a little bit bleak, but guys, it's such an exciting show. It's so good. The acting's fucking excellent. The writing is exceptional. There's another bit in the series that's not part of the prison arc, which is obviously mainly what we discussed because I think it was really the most relevant bit to what our show is about, but
well, the whole I think we just also wanted to pick a particular focus, and just we are going to do a second episode of Andor, and we're going to focus on the second season, and we're going to be focusing on the Gorman genocide and all the stuff that leads up to that.
Yeah, but there's a little in this series. There's a little socialist that we did talk about a bit. He's a precocious, 19-year-old kid.
But he's brilliant.
He's writing all of these, every time you see him, he's, writing down his thoughts about politics and things like that. And as Cassian is getting ready to, throw himself back into danger, save his friend Bix from, the Inquisitors, as it were, he's reading what Nemik wrote before he died, and there's a little voiceover from Nemik, and it's really good. And I also transcribed this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they're already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And remember this, the imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks, it leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this, the day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. I think it's so good. And he's so right. It is so desperate because it is so unnatural. And this idea is supported by, I think, the long-ranging and internecine plot that Palpatine needed to construct in order to achieve this unprecedented level of control that he would eventually achieve.
Yeah.
It's so control and authoritarianism is rigid, and that's why it needs brutal enforcers like Darth Vader and the Inquisitors, because you have to put down any resistance with as much force as you can bring to bear while maintaining a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah. And the striving for order and perfection is the way of cowards.
Yes.
It's the way of fear, because the reality is that reality itself is messy and complex. And if you look at the natural world, there's what appears to be chaos, but what you're actually seeing is redundancy. And we've talked about this on Resistance Reads before. And that redundancy is where there's much more power and strength out in the world. And this striving for order and perfection is like this cowardly falsehood. It's an illusion. It's kind of like this hyper realness that they're seeking that they can never reach. It's platonic forms, right?
Absolutely.
It's going back to this idea that somewhere in the universe there's this perfect thing we can strive to. Nonsense. There's no such thing as perfection. It's absolutely cowardice that you cannot handle imperfection, that you can't thrive in, the complex, in the nuanced. And here's my kind of final takeaway. No matter how oppressive the system, there are always cracks.
Yes.
There are always ways to push back. And if you're calm, if you're watchful, you can absolutely find those little cracks, those little things, and make a big opening. And you can do that especially much more powerfully if you unite other people in that cause.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't agree with them, even if they hate your guts, if you can find a way to find cracks in the system, you can overcome and topple that kind of authoritarian thinking.
Absolutely. Luthen and Saw Gerrera do not like each other. That's obvious.
No, and you really see this in the second season. When we talk about the second season, we'll talk about this more. Most of the rebellion hates each other.
Yeah.
It's like utterly clear. And oh man, the Saw Gerrera speech in the second season, wait till you see it.
Oh,
man. It is
Forrest Whitaker, you guys.
So good. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker's an incredible actor.
So good.
Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting. I know that when George Lucas was interviewed about his inspirations for Star Wars, the original Star Wars movies, he talked a lot about the Vietnam War and the resistance, that was mounted to the American invasion of Vietnam. And I don't know how much the prequels were predicated on American foreign policy at that point, although it does feel a little bit like
he mentioned
Vader's especially Vader's like desire to bring order feels a lot like America's desire to bring democracy. To places. But
they don't really want democracy.
They never work. Well, he doesn't want order. He wants oppression. And characters in Star Wars always talk about order, but what they're actually talking about is authority.
Yeah.
And I just think it's an interesting. People give Lucas, or at least our generation gave Lucas a lot of shit for the prequels because I think we didn't think the writing was very good, and
it wasn't. I just rewatched them.
I think it's true in a lot of ways, but I think there are sparks of like real brilliance that he was, that he had all along, and I think he lost a good partner in his wife, Marsha Lucas, when they divorced in the 80s. But there's still moments of brilliance there, and one of those moments I think is Padme Amidala talking about the final vote in the Senate to turn the Republic into an empire, and how that democracy dies not with a bang but with applause.
With great applause. She says, this is how democracy dies, with great applause.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes. And it's so true. I think that...
The spectacle, man.
Spectacle. Exactly.
Yeah. So watch out for those
Watch out for spectacle. Don't be taken in by them, guys, and always try.
Bread and circus. Bread and circus is everywhere.
Yeah.
So... All right, well, that's it for this one. Next month, we will do an episode on the second season of Andor. We'll be focusing on the Gorman Massacre, which I believe is a 4-episode series.
Okay.
But we'll do a summary of the whole thing and bring in thieves from other things. But again, sign up for our Patreon if you like this show, and support us, and we can do some really cool stuff. And
Absolutely.
we appreciate you all watching as always.